In the last episode, we explored the rise of the Great Benin Kingdom, how the Edo people built one of Africa's most advanced civilizations, ruled by powerful Obas and admired across the world for their order, art, and diplomacy. But every great empire faces its tests. By the late 1800s, the once mighty Benin Empire stood proud but isolated, surrounded by European powers hungry for control. What followed was one of the most dramatic confrontations in African history, the British invasion of 1897. This is the story of how Benin's independence was crushed by colonial ambition, how its treasures were stolen, and how the Edo spirit refused to die. By the late 19th century, the Kingdom of Benin had declined somewhat from its peak but was still independent and proud. Oba Ovonramwen sat on the throne. Having been crowned in 1888, he, like his forefathers, tightly controlled trade in his realm, especially the lucrative palm oil trade, which Europeans now desired during the Industrial Age. The British, who had established themselves on the Nigerian coast, were eager to make Benin a protectorate and open up its resources to the British merchants. Several British officials tried to pressure or persuade Oba Ovonramwen to sign a treaty ceding some control, including a vice consul Henry Galway in 1892. Galway did obtain a treaty that he claimed puts Benin under British protection and granted free trade rights. The Oba, however, is said to have been reluctant and likely did not fully understand the document or its implications. Benin effectively ignored this treaty and continued to bar British traders from entering freely, as the Oba maintained its traditional monopoly and custom duties. Tension mounted. The British depicted Benin as a barbaric place of human sacrifice and wanted to put a stop to what they called Benin bloody customs. At the same time, economic motives were front and center. British officials wrote privately about Benin's rich rubber, ivory and oil palm resources and how they desire to control them. In January 1897, a British delegation led by Acting Consul General James Robert Phillips set out to visit Benin City, officially to discuss trade issues. In reality, Phillips had already written to London recommending an armed expedition to remove the Oba. He went ahead before receiving permission, perhaps underestimating the Edo or thinking the Oba would give him peacefully. When Ovonramwen learned of this embalmed mission, he sent word to turn back. It was a season of important religious rituals, the Igbo festival, during which the Oba would not see foreign visitors. Phillips ignored the warning and continued on with a small entourage, including a few British officers and several hundred African porters. As this group approached the outskirts of the city, in early January 1897, they fell into a trap. Benin chiefs, without the Oba's explicit order, ambushed the party, seeing it as an invasion threat. In what the British later dubbed the Benin Massacre, almost the entire group was wiped out. Only 2 men escaped alive. This attack sealed Benin's fate. British swiftly organized a punitive expedition to conquer the kingdom in retaliation. In February 1897, a force of 1,200 British soldiers, including African troops under British command, marched on Benin City under Admiral Sir Henry Rawson. The Edo warriors, armed mostly with spears, swords, and a few old flintlock muskets, put up a fierce resistance but were outgunned by modern rifles and magazine guns. British troops captured Benin City on February 18, 1897. They deliberately destroyed part of the city, burning the Great Palace and many compounds to the ground. The invaders also indulged in massive looting of Benin's treasure. Royal altars were smashed and thousands of artworks, the famous bronze plaque, brass sculptures, carved ivory tusks, coral regalia, and other ceremonial pieces were seized as war booty. These artifacts were later auctioned off or given to museums in London, Berlin, and elsewhere. Indeed, much of the world first learned of Benin artistic genius when this bronze went on display in Europe after 1897. Oba Ovonramwen had fled into the countryside as the city fell. The British sacked and occupied the once mighty capital, declaring the annexation of the Kingdom of Benin into the British Empire. Ovonramwen evaded captures for a few months, but by August 1897, he surrendered to the new British authority. In a final indignity, the British exiled the Oba far away to Calabar in southeastern Nigeria. Ovonramwen was stripped of power and kept under watch. He died in exile in 1914, the same year his kingdom conqueror would amalgamate Nigeria as a colony. The fall of Benin was a tragic turning point. The British justified it with sensational reports of discovering a city of blood, claiming they found hundreds of decapitated bodies and signs of ongoing human sacrifices. While there certainly had been recent sacrifices, possibly related to the Oba ritual or the war preparations, historians note that some of these gruesome sites were misinterpreted or exaggerated. Nonetheless, the British used such stories to portray their conquest as morally necessary, even as they shipped out catalogs of Benin's cultural heritage. The walls of Benin were partly leveled by the invaders, and over time, locals repurposed the earthwork for building roads and houses. The kingdom's administration was supplanted by colonial rule, and in 1899, the British conducted another campaign to suppress the many resistance, burning villages and farms until all opposition ceased. The era of the independent Benin Empire from 1180 to 1897 had come to an end. Despite the catastrophe of 1897, the Edo people and their culture survived and adapted. In 1914, when Oba Ovonramwen died, the British allowed his son to take the title as a traditional ruler. Prince Basenwen was crowned Oba Eweka II in 1914, only as a symbolic leader under British colonial government. Eweka II immediately set about rebuilding what was lost. He reconstructed the royal palace on its old site and re-established the court ceremonies and offices that had been disrupted. He also revived the royal guilds of artists, summoning back the brass caster, ivory carvers and others to resume their craft, since so many priceless artwork had been looted. In 1914, many craftsmen who had fled returned to Benin City and set up on a street that is today known as Igon Street, which remained the home of Benin Bronze Casters Guild. Even under colonial rule, the Edo people kept their royal tradition alive as much as possible. During the 20th century, the Edo people became part of Nigeria, which gained independence in 1960. The Kingdom of Benin was no longer a sovereign state, but it lived on as a traditional monarchy within Nigeria. Oba Eweka II's successors, Oba Akensua II, who ruled from 1933 to 1978, and Oba Eredwawa, who ruled from 1979 to 2016, continue to hold moral authorities among the Edo. They work with Nigerian government as custodians of culture and peace in the region. For example, Obas often mediated local disputes and served as ceremonial leaders. The current Oba, Oba Eweka II, was crowned in 2016 and is an active advocate for Edo heritage. In recent years, the Benin royal family have been heavily involved in campaigns to retrieve the looted Benin Bronzes from foreign museums. This effort has seen success. In 2021 and 2022, some major institutions in Europe announced they will return several bronzes to Nigeria, and is a source of pride for the Edo people. Today, Edo cultural practice remains vibrant. The Oba in Benin City still celebrate the Igwe festival each December, blessing the lands and its people in ceremonies not so different from those of past centuries. Edo people continue to wear their distinctive traditional attire for special occasions. Both men and women adorn themselves with strings of red coral beads called Ivi, symbolizing prestige and connection to the royal court. The Oba and his wives appear in full coral beads crown, necklaces and embroidered wrappers during events, showcasing a visual continuity with the depiction seen in centuries-old bronze plugs. Edo language and proverbs are taught and cherished, and traditional songs and dances are performed at festivals and palace gatherings. Many Edo art forms also endure. The brass caster of Igon Street still use the lockswork casting method to create bronze artwork, just as the ancestors did for the Obas of old. Tourists and art enthusiasts can visit their workshop to see replicas of Benin plagues, bronze leopards and heads being made, a living connection to the kingdom's artistic legacy. Carvers still produce wooden sculptures and masks with motifs of Edo mythology. Courtly manners and honorifics survive too. When addressing the Oba or high chiefs, many Edo use the proper place names and observe etiquettes reflecting the kingdom's noble court culture. The Edo people primarily live in Edo State, Nigeria, with Benin City as the state capital. They also reside in neighboring areas. Many related ethnic groups like the Esan, Afemai, Isoku, and Iwobo share historical links to the Benin Kingdom. Through migration, Edo communities can be found in Nigeria's large cities and around the world, but they remain proud of their heritage. They remember that their ancestors built an empire known for arts, organization, and courage. Historians now recognize the Kingdom of Benin as one of the great civilizations of Africa, on par with better-known empires. Its stories, from early origins and royal glory, through diplomatic brilliance and tragic conquest to cultural resilience, continues to fascinate and inspire. The Edo people history is a rich tapestry of innovation and tradition. They founded the kingdom around their homeland, possibly as early as in 900 AD, and nurtured it into the Great Benin Empire that awed the world by the 16th century. They managed complex relations with neighbors like the Oyo Empire, sometimes clashing but ultimately coexisting. They engaged with British as equal in the age of exploration, trading and learning without losing their sovereignty for hundreds of years. Their governance under the sacred Oba and the guide system produced political stability and artistic masterpieces renowned worldwide. Though British colonial aggression in 1897 abruptly ended the kingdom's independence and led to immense loss, the spirit of Edo culture was never extinguished. The Oba lineage lives on, and Edo traditions, from the Kora beads to bronze casting, from festivals to folklore, are still much very alive today. This legacy of the Edo Benin people stands as a testament to a dynamic history that any layperson can appreciate, a story of the people who built a kingdom of art and order in the rainforest, weathered the storm of history, and continue to celebrate their identity in modern Nigeria. Great Benin, where the king resides, is larger than Lisbon. The city is wealthy and industrious, so well governed that theft is unknown. These words from the 17th century Europeans remind us of the high esteem in which Benin was held. By looking beyond the Benin Bronzes, deeper into the Oba system and the Edo way of life, we gain a fuller understanding of that esteem. The story of the Edo and their Benin Kingdom is not one of myth or distortion, but of a real people's achievement, trauma, and endurance from ancient time right up to the present day. The facts and quotations in this account are drawn from reputable historical research and records, including academic works and archival description of Benin City and its arts, Wikipedia, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Guardian Archives, and other verified historical studies. This ensures an accurate portrayal of Edo Benin history that neither glorifies nor denigrates, but rather respects the true legacy of a remarkable African civilization. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe, and join me next week as we continue exploring the untold history of Africa.